Hello and welcome to AWS Made Easy. This is the show where we talk about all things FinOps, AWS, AI, cost optimization, trying to make sense of it in this ever complexifying world. My name is Stephen Barr.
Hi everyone, I'm Rahul Subramaniam, and I just found it really funny that the scope of what we do just expanded so much. When we first started the show, we were primarily just talking about FinOps and how to apply FinOps particularly to AWS, and now it's everything from FinOps to AI to having the experts to how to use AWS, and it's just growing in definition with every episode. But it's a fun time to be around when all this amazing stuff is happening.
I feel like the scope is growing, but that's because we can do more.
That's true.
Like today, I was working on some AI stuff, literally from a coffee shop, and I made some huge changes to this code, and this would have taken me a week. And this
Yeah.
is something that took me, an hour.
No, absolutely. I think what AI has done for us is it's kind of made us so much more productive and effective because information is literally at our fingertips now, much more than ever before. But also the agency that some of these AI agents have now to get stuff done is absolutely incredible. So
It,
it's an amazing time.
it is. It's funny. I do think we have to be more and more and more aware of the fundamentals, and
Yeah,
also just being able to unwind things with Git.
that's true.
I use Cursor in YOLO mode,
Mhm.
and it's really good. Like once I saw, it, like, whoa! It just added a license and committed. Like my code's now MIT licensed. So
That's true. Yeah,
it's
no,
but it's
it's
great. I'm really enjoying it.
likewise. So, I guess we're gonna have a fact show today. What are we talking about, Stephen?
Well, wanted to show this is actually a thing that one of my colleagues made. It's an MCP tool to look at EC2 pricing.
Hmm.
Now, on the one hand, you think, okay, EC2 pricing is somewhat, it doesn't change every second of every day. So, why would you want an MCP tool to do that? But then, once you start playing with it and you realize, okay, having this one little piece of static information that you can then inject into an AI and start to ask questions involving this real data, it's really neat to just have everything right there. So I wanted to show the CloudFix EC2 MCP pricing server. I think that's the official name. I don't know if I got all the components in the right order, but CloudFix EC2 MCP pricing.
Awesome.
So
So,
let's just
why
put that
don't we
on
do? Here's my
screen.
recommendation. Why don't we do the show a little differently? Why don't
Okay.
we make it a demo focused show where let's solve some of these key problems that I've always had. I mean, 15 years or now 17 years of being on AWS and seeing what no, now it's what 800 plus instance types that are now available. I have always struggled with this fundamental problem when I'm starting a new project, when I'm starting on a new setup. The first question I ask is, what kind of instances do I need to actually run the workload? And at the same time, I want to be as cost effective as possible. And I have always struggled to find. I invariably spend at least a day looking up all the different instance types, researching what would be the best instance to use, and that's an incredible waste of time now that we have this server. So can we start with looking up some of these problems and trying to see if this new MCP tool, combined with the power of AI, like with Claude or with any of the Bedrock LLMs, can actually help us solve this problem quickly?
Yeah, so let's have a look. And I think we can start with something really simple and then just build and layer on the complexity. So this is Claude. And
Great.
importantly, Claude with, if you look at the tools, so I've got CloudFix, EC2 pricing, MCP, which has one tool, which is find instances. Note, I've also got the Perplexity MCP in here, which has a couple of tools that might
Great.
augment, supplement some of our research. Okay,
So before we get started, can we just tell the audience where they can go search for this so that if they wanted to follow along, they could always get to it?
yes, let's see if I can put that on screen. Oops. Okay,
I
let
think
me
we need to
share that.
swap some. Yeah.
Here we go. This is the AWS Pricing MCP repository, github.com/trilogy-group/AWS Pricing MCP. It's really easy to get started. You just basically it's just pull this Docker container, AI first. That's a colleague Dimitri slash AWS Pricing MCP, and it'll the data itself is baked into the image. So as new instance gets added, just do a Docker pull once in a while, and that will give you what you need.
That's awesome. So let's dive back into Claude and let's start solving some real world problems. So
Yeah.
the first problem that I want to actually tackle is OpenSearch, right? When I want to get started with OpenSearch, I want a very cost-effective, system set up. Particularly, let's say I'm starting a dev server or a dev instance. I don't want to be projecting out this crazy final state solution. I'm starting today. Okay, so I want to find out what is the most cost-effective OpenSearch instance that I can host or deploy that can support maybe 100 megs of data. Because I guess when I'm just starting my development work, I'm not going to have more than, or say 1 gig. Like, why don't we do it? Make it 1 gig.
Okay. Because at 100 megabyte, it might say do a nano. Okay, right. So let's have a look. I'll say use the EC2 find instances tool. Okay. So through the magic of MCP, it can discover exactly how to call this particular tool. T4G.
Awesome. Yeah, so T4 is actually a really good choice because number one, the T4G is a Graviton instance. It is a burstable instance, and it is very, very cost effective. It has only 2 vCPUs. That makes sense. We have 4 gigs of RAM, which should be enough to run OpenSearch, and it's just 1 GB. So it's going to be pretty efficient with that as well. And for a development project with a small 1 GB data set, yep, this is actually really good. Why don't we do a comparison? Could it create a table of OpenSearch options if I had 1 GB, 10 GB, 100 GB, 1 TB, and 10 TB?
Okay, so then
great. So here are all the
first,
other
here's
options.
the initial pricing table at the 1 GB data set. So
Great.
now we want to add another dimension to this and say, let's take the best recommendation for each of the following
data size. Yeah. 1 GB, 10 GB, 100 GB.
Okay. For each, assume the 10 queries per second.
Yeah, 10 queries per second. And don't overestimate all the vCPUs. Like be efficient. Don't over provision. This is an advice that I give every one of my team members. So I will give AI the very same advice, and let's see what it comes up with. And by the way, while this is churning through this, if you look at the right, there are so many different options of how I could purchase it, which is what I love.
Yeah, if we said the don't over provision, it'll give us that SAP HANA instance. What's the one? The one with 100?
The X1Es or the X2Es.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sizing considerations. Okay. 1 GB is a T4G medium. That's great. I think I agree with that. 10 GB just went to a large. So it kept the same vCPUs, just increased the RAM. Makes complete sense. T4G extra large for 100 GB went up to 16 GB of RAM. That is really good. 1 TB at T4G 2x large. That means you have 8 vCPUs and 32 gigs of RAM, which makes complete sense. And that would still only be $196 a month. So you have options all the way from 25 bucks a month to 196. And can we just look up? Can we
Well,
add
what?
all the different purchasing options to this?
Well, I have a question of this one before.
Sure.
I wanted to say, what is the binding constraint? Um, what if we had 1,000 queries per second?
That's a great question to ask.
So I want to see if it's going to switch from the burstable instances, and at what threshold do we switch from burstable instances to non-burstable?
So
Okay, this is
here, that's a great explanation. For small data sets, having sufficient memory both for both the JVM heap and the file system cache is a primary constraint that makes sense. 10 GB is still memory bound. That's awesome. At 100 GB, at this size with 10 QPS, processing multiple concurrent queries becomes important, making CPU cores the limiting factor. That's actually a really good explanation. And for very large data sets, EBS throughput and network performance become the binding constraint.
okay, but now let's see for 1,000, what do we get now? At 1,000 queries per second. So look, we've switched to the M7G.
Correct. And M7 is still a great choice because you've still only got 8 vCPUs with the 2x large and 32 gigs. But at the same time, you have 15,000 Mbps. In the earlier one, we were looking at 2,700 Mbps roughly in terms of bandwidth. And
Data transfer between no. Okay,
and it's also got a sharding or a cluster approach as you get to 1,000 queries per second.
you need multiple dedicated master, multiple data nodes, multiple coordinators. Okay, so this is just the size of the nodes.
Yep, correct.
This is neat.
Yeah, I mean this would have taken me hours to have researched and try and rational out um, or reason out why I would pick a particular instance or a cluster configuration in the past, and now it just makes life so simple. Um, my general recommendation on a lot of this stuff, and this comes back to uh, my instruction to not over provision, is to start with the best recommendation that comes out of here, but turn on everything that you need for the compute optimizer to run, and have the computer optimizer actually look at not theoretical numbers of how many queries per second you need, but the actuals, and give you a recommendation on what the best instance type is going to be for your use case.
Because even 10 queries per second is a lot.
It is.
That's a busy application.
Correct. And realistically, so if you remember the original query, I said 5 queries per minute, which in a development environment is more than sufficient. I mean,
yeah, that's a lot of debugging.
That's a lot of debug, not just debugging, but a lot of queries running in your dev environment. And when I see, developers launching very, very large instances, I mean, here's a simple example, right? If you provision the least expensive recommendation over here, which is $238 per node per month, and then it recommended a minimum of 3 nodes, right? You're going to be spending nearly $800 a month. And the other recommendation was literally $25 a month. You are talking about a 32x increase in cost.
I'm asking you to look at 1 year and 3 year time horizons and different pricing models.
Great.
Because like you said, this, and actually funny that you mentioned development environments. We just had a CloudFix customer where they had some RDS databases that were development environments, but they were set up as multi-AZ. And so again, that's a copy, an entire copy for the situation where an AWS availability zone vanishes, which
Correct.
is fine in production in very, very, very important workloads where you can't be down for a millisecond. But for a development environment, this was throwing away hundreds of thousands of dollars, and we got that fixed up. Okay, this is neat. This is giving us different pricing plans based on commitments,
Yeah.
whether it's 1 year, 3 year, using right spend. This is neat. This is really can help you make an informed decision, and you can
Correct.
see the variation in the hourly rate, and also see how
Correct.
expensive it is to run these to service these large OpenSearch clusters.
Yeah, exactly. And which is why you need to get at least your initial pricing right, make the decision quickly, get started with the smallest recommended, instance. And I love the amount of reasoning that is available over here, because it makes you it gives you the ability to make an informed decision very, very rapidly and get started. The biggest hurdle to actually doing something significant is getting started, and this unblocks you almost immediately. So I love the fact that this MCP server is available and gives you all of these amazing recommendations, or it enables the LLM to give you amazing recommendations.
And we should try this next time. Q just added MCP support. So you could use this server from within QCLI and then say, okay, make me a cloud formation or a CDK that deploys this. And you
Mhm.
could do it. Obviously, you could do it from Claude too, right?
Correct.
You could say, make me a cloud formation template to serve the 1 terabyte 1000 QPS case.
Yeah.
We're not going to actually run this, but you could.
Yeah. I mean, it makes things so much simpler um, when you have AI doing all of this stuff for you. Um, there you go. It's creating the
And this is
template.
neat that it allowed the different Graviton instance types.
Options. Yeah. Correct.
Yeah, this is the stuff that used to take forever. Okay, this is a
Awesome.
cool use case number one.
Yeah.
Let's try another use case. I'll close this one for now, but I think I could export these and publish them.
Yeah, I think that'd be a great idea. Folks can actually try out a bunch of these different queries. There was one that was interesting that we were talking about earlier. You said you've got Perplexity Search and you use it a lot as well. Can we
yeah.
use, let's create a question that marries the use of both Perplexity Search,
Okay.
Perplexity Research, and then marries all of that data with the instance types you need over here,
How about
or the
this one?
instance pricing.
I have a. Okay, I am trying to host a lamp stack.
Mhm.
I believe. Let's see. Compare Graviton 2, 3, and 4, and then use find instances to prices.
Great. Actually, this is a really good one because we've always struggled to figure out what would be the most cost efficient or the price perform. We always look at price performance um, ratios and stuff like that. And this is a really good question to ask. Do you use a previous generation Graviton, which might be slightly cheaper, or do you use a newer generation Graviton, which will have a significantly better price performance? So it's going to be tiny bit more expensive, but probably going to have crazy more performance. So you'll probably need smaller instances. So let's see what it comes up with.
And this is remembering one of our most technical guests, Arthur Petit Pierre, on the
That's right.
Graviton team, and that it's a hard question to answer, and that's
Yeah,
why there's still Graviton 2, 3, and 4 in production, and they're still working on. I believe they're still working on Graviton 3 rollout to some of the smaller data centers, and
that's
Graviton
right.
4 is being rolled out simultaneously, and they're different generations.
That's correct.
So perplexity
Yeah,
research, this can take up to 2 minutes.
yeah.
So it's great. I've been using Perplexity more and more often. Have you used Perplexity Pro shopping?
No, I haven't. Again, living in India and Chennai, Perplexity Pro Shopping has limited use cases for me, but I guess it's really good for US based customers.
What's great is you don't have to make an account with the vendor itself. So
Hmm.
there's a certain kind of frisbee that I really like. And as coming to the summer, I wanted to get a few stock up on those frisbees. And my go-to obviously is Amazon. But I thought, okay, the price was not very good on Amazon, so I just asked
Hmm.
Perplexity, go find this frisbee, and it found it at Dick's Sporting Goods. But I just clicked Buy with Pro,
Oh,
and
nice.
it had my address. I only put my credit card number in once for Perplexity Pro. It handled my relationship with getting my address to the vendor. It was really seamless, and the frisbee showed up a day later, and it was half the price of Amazon.
That's amazing. That is really awesome. Now, I think AI is going to change a lot of how we do things, and it's already permeated most of our work related things, and very soon into all our personal interactions as well.
Well, I wonder if I could use the Perplexity Pro MCP, and I know there's some Amazon retail MCPs to look up like arbitrage opportunities, and that's where you can use AI to supplement with, okay,
True.
a frisbee it's cheap to store, has a long shelf life. They don't update the model every year, so this would be a good little Amazon fulfillment by Amazon arbitrage opportunity if I bought 100 of these frisbees. Okay,
Very true.
let's see what Perplexity research is coming up with. Okay, so this answered one of this tool. It's hiding the output, and now it's using the find instances tool to look at. It is looking at the different Graviton families. This is kind of neat to see all the different work it's doing. So first, it's looking at Graviton M's. It looks here at Graviton C8G, so the Graviton 4, and I guess filling up its context to answer this question for us finally.
I mean, this honestly would have taken us days to put together for any internal reporting in the past. And now it's just a matter of a few minutes. So even though it looks like it's taking a while over here, when you actually look at what the human equivalent of this would have taken, it just seems inconsequential. Or this effort with the AI is inconsequential. Okay, there we go. So recommended one best overall option is the C7G 4X large, which is about 60 cents an hour or $423 a month. 16 vCPUs, that seems about right. I mean, that was a constraint. 25% better than Graviton 2. And the C7Gs are the Graviton 3s, 4s. C8Gs
These
is the
are
first one.
Graviton
This is a
3s.
Graviton 3.
The 7G is
There we go.
Graviton 3.
While not absolute cheapest option, it offers significant performance improvement over Graviton 2. It didn't
So this
compare against the Graviton 3s, though.
so this is good.
I'll
Since
give that.
as an alternative, you could use the C8G.
But it'd be 10% more expensive.
Yeah. So it gives
Yeah.
you. I think it's really neat, and one thing that was really hard to get before AI, like in previous kind of optimization questions, you get what's called corner solutions,
Yeah.
where you're kind of driven to these very extreme points, like either use the cheapest or the most expensive, and having it, balance different competing incentives kind of in a human way. that's hard to do.
Yeah.
This is kind of neat. It says balanced price performance ratio. It didn't pick the Graviton 2 or the Graviton 4.
Yeah. By the way, I haven't heard of the A1 instance. Like, I might have forgotten about it. Is there an A1 instance?
I hope that's not a hallucination.
Can we?
A1.4x large. Well, I'm gonna say use perplexity ask to find more about the A1. So perplexity ask is the same as what you get if you're typing to perplexity, so it's not going to be
Right.
as long of a research project.
I mean, I've forgotten. I think the sheer number of instances, it's hard for me to tell whether instance types are real or not, but A1 feels like it might be a hallucination.
No, it's on Vantage.
Oh, there are EC2 instances, ARM-based instances. They were launched in 2018. I guess my memory is very short term at this point, but you do have the A1 mediums, the larges, and it goes up to the 4X large, which is 16 vCPUs and 32 gigs of RAM. They only have 3.5 Gbps of EBS bandwidth and up to 10 Gbps of network bandwidth. And
It's
they're
slow
about,
clock speed.
yeah, they are pretty inexpensive, but again, very low performance. This is right when they announced Nitro, or around the time of Nitro coming into the stacks. Interesting that it actually picked one of those if cost was the only choice.
And of course, it gives
Right.
us some cost optimization from a contracting perspective too. So look at spot, look at reserved.
Yeah. So why don't we do
Like
this? Why don't we pick the best recommendation it had? And why don't we ask it to create a table of all the recommended ways that, or all the different ways that we could possibly buy it, spanning from an on-demand all the way up to a 3-year horizon.
Okay, so its recommendation was C7G.4x large.
Yeah. Why don't we just go ahead and just, instead of explicitly calling it out, just tell it using your recommended. Yeah.
Create a table
of all purchase options, spanning from on-demand all the way up to a 3-year horizon. If it solves this is going to be so awesome because this is one of the biggest decisions that most of us need to make often. And solving this would be incredibly, incredibly valuable.
Oh, interesting. It put this into.
Hey, by the way, I lost your video for some reason.
Oh, that's strange.
That's the first time that's happened.
Hey.
It still shows a blank screen. I don't know if
Nope,
it's something on my end.
That might be me.
This is a pretty sophisticated query to run because you're not only looking up pricing of one type for one instance, but you're looking up pricing across all different types of data feeds that are available from AWS. There are on-demand ones, there are spot ones, there are ones for specific availability zones, regions, sorry. Then there are ones that are specific to the reservations, whether it is 1 year, 3-year horizons, and so on. And then you, of course, have Cloudflix's own right spend recommendations that also need to be considered. So while this is coming up, again, I'm going to reiterate the one thing that I recommend to everybody. It's more important to get started with something. Go use this MCP tool and whatever LLM that you use or that fits your needs, and go ahead and get started with an instance type that is recommended by this Cloudfix's MCP tool. And once you're done with that, just turn on every requirement you need to run Compute Optimizer. Compute Optimizer is really awesome. It'll look at your actual usage and figure out what the recommended instance type for you should be, and then migrate as soon as those recommendations come in. I think we've discussed this earlier. Compute Optimizer recommendations are extremely conservative. They want to make sure that nothing breaks when you actually take on those recommendations. So it should be a no-brainer to turn on those recommendations right away. Okay, can't wait to see this. Graviton 3 pricing.
You can see that the model, I'm very excited for things like Cerebrus, which can give you tokens so much faster.
Wow, that's a very comprehensive table. So just very quickly to summarize, let's start all the way up top with the on-demand instances. So if you went to on-demand instances, it would cost us roughly between $15,000 and $17,000 with on-demand. With spot instances, it could be as low as $5,000, but we run the risk of instances getting taken away as we run them. There are no one-year reserved instances available on this. Interesting. Oh yeah, there you got the 1 year totals. So those are $3,000 to $3,100 on the 1 year. How much can we scroll down a bit and look at 3 year? So it can be as low as $1,800 if you did partial upfront and 3 year reservations, but on a per month basis, you'd have to spend about $2,000, and that is already 1/6 of the on-demand price, isn't it?
Yeah, look at that. Wow.
Or 1/8. We started off with 15. Oh wait, that is no. We went from $5,600 per month down to $2,000 per month. So that's about a reduction. It's a 2.5 times reduction. Okay, let's go down further. Now, if we do the compute savings plans at 3 years, we can go down even further by another $200 to $1,600 a month. And then if you did Cloudfix Right Spend, you would pay a little higher on a per month basis, $1,900, but your commitments are going to be much lesser. And overall, you end up over 3 years, you end up paying only $5,800 as against
Back to the on-demand, yeah,
$16,000.
So I guess one of the things that you're seeing here is that there's a huge amount of variation based on
correct
the pricing model, and this is for the exact same amount of compute.
Correct. That's right. And so if you use Cloudfix's MCP server to analyze all this stuff, you can actually make very informed decisions about what your risk appetite is for commitments, how much discount you actually want and what to pay for. And so these trade-offs become significantly easier to make when you have all this information at your fingertips. If I had to search through AWS documentation to get this, I think it would take me weeks. And then there's, of course, the opportunity cost that I could never make up anyway. So it's remarkable what this tool can do. I would recommend everyone get started with this MCP server right away. Give us your feedback. We'd love to know how you are using it, what kind of decisions it enabled for you. And yeah, we'd love to know what else you would like to see in this MCP server that would make your decision making simple.
Absolutely. I think it's pretty neat to see. All right, I can do a demo of Perplexity Pro because I'm going to see if it can find me a new TT on-site relay, which is the part that just failed. That's what. Let me
Ah.
see if I can do a share of this screen here. So if I do, I'll have to. Okay, so I could say I have a Tether Tools on-site relay for a Fuji film.
Hmm.
Okay, so obviously it's going to go to B&H and Adorama. Okay, so this makes a ton of sense. Okay, so it looks like they've come out with a new model. This is the USB-C, which is going to have better power delivery. And so if I hit buy with
Nice.
Pro, um, I'll probably log into my B&H account. Um, but if I hit buy with Pro, it would do that right away, and I wouldn't have to log into my B&H account, so I could do it that way. And so I really don't even need to know the vendor. Here's
Yeah.
This is interesting. I can look at this is the coupler unit. This is the battery half of the equation. This one isn't broken. But even knowing, okay, it knows the camera that I have because there's a bunch of these different ones, uh, and being
Yeah.
able to like have some assurance because I'm not a camera person. So having some assurance that okay, this is the right thing that I need. That's pretty cool.
That
So
is
I
so awesome.
definitely, again, like we said, with this MCP, with Perplexity Search, being able to combine all of these different information sources together and have intelligence on top of it
Hmm.
is really neat. And that is uh, that is also why my camera has given up the ghost here. Any other experiments we want to do with this one?
I think I'd love to hear from our customers as to what they want to, find out with this. This just feels like such an incredible amount of information that's available at your fingertips. I'm just curious to see what kind of decisions this enables. So we'd love to hear from you, our customers, about your feedback about this, about what decisions you are making with it, and how does this make it easier for you to get started with an AWS instance to get your job done. So yeah,
Yeah,
keep
please
us
let us
posted.
know.
Let us know how you're using it.
Yeah, very anxious to find out. All right. Well, I think given the technical difficulty, probably a good time to wrap up with this one. I have to get my Black Magic camera back online, replace the Fujifilm until I can power the Fujifilm again. But yeah, it's been really good to catch up, and